in terms of price, I would say that threshold's probably somewhere at I don't know, maybe 500,000 per Bitcoin, maybe 400,000 Bitcoin, somewhere there is where we start becoming the second largest asset class on the planet. And people can kind of directly compare gold at the top with what is it, 20, 20 trillion, and Bitcoin with, half of that. And I think at that point you start to demonetize gold because, you have this new thing that is surpassing that 1,000-year monetary technology in 16, 17, 18 years. I don't think there's another thing you can do. Like the era of making new fiat is over. What you've got right now is it. And when this dies, it's over. Because Bitcoin is superior, like in every way, even to gold.
Bitcoin is charging toward $500,000, and once it breaks through, nothing will stand in its way, not central banks, not governments, not institutions. That's the latest message from Samson Mow, CEO of January 3rd. He believes Bitcoin is on a clear path to becoming the world's dominant store of value, with no real resistance left to hold it back. What was once dismissed as a fringe experiment has quietly evolved into a serious alternative to the traditional financial system. As faith in fiat currencies fades and economic policies become more extreme, people are turning to Bitcoin, a fixed supply asset immune to manipulation. It's no longer about waiting for approval from legacy institutions. It's about leaving the old system behind block by block. Stick around until the end of the video as Samson Mow breaks down what's coming next, and why the momentum behind Bitcoin's rise is now unstoppable. The old system can't compete, and it can't catch up.
Stop. You don't have time. Don't miss out this 2025 bull run. Educate yourself first ahead of the crowd. We have created the ultimate step-by-step crypto cheat guide that will guide you this bull run. Unlock the secrets of crypto and make smarter investments today. Now by clicking on the link below to get your exclusive copy just under $10.
The US is seemingly on a track to recovery from financial mismanagement, let's say. I don't see the same happening in Europe and other places. They're all sort of in denial, but at least the Trump admin has sort of recognized the problem. That's why they're trying to stop the death spiral. That's why they've implemented the Department of Government Efficiency. This is why they're trying to lower the 10-year rates. They realize that the debt is unsustainable. Inflation is a symptom, and something has to be done. And they're trying these other things, but Bitcoin is the only solution that will fix these things. So, yeah, to answer your question, yeah, it's a bit surprising the US was the next big one. I thought we'd have another big country, and that's kind of what we've been trying to accomplish at Jan 3. But what we've encountered is just everyone wants to wait for the US. And there's just a lot of fear of career risk. And with this shift in the US landscape, I think there is no more career risk. And that alleviation of the fear about doing something with Bitcoin, it just hasn't made its way around the world yet. Many Bitcoiners were expecting, like, we're going to get an Omega candle right now with the EO. But I think you need some massive change before that is going to happen, like retail coming in or normal people understanding Bitcoin, and or even just the action of buying either from the US or other countries. And that hasn't happened yet. The EO is just sort of news, and it's not well understood, and the impact is not well understood.
Okay, so you did mention Omega Candle, and we are going to come back to that eventually. I'm going to make the people wait for that one because you mentioned Europe. I wasn't planning on asking you about Europe, but I saw a really interesting headline drop yesterday. It said something along the lines of Europe's monetary sovereignty and monetary independence feels threatened by America adopting crypto. I just saw that headline. I thought that was interesting. Do you have any thoughts about Europe and why you think we might not see similar adoption there?
Well, I don't know. Europe is kind of its own little microcosm of understanding reality and common sense. And there's got to be like some major change there. But if you go back like a number of years, I mean, they're shutting down nuclear reactors. They're doing all these very poorly thought out things that sound good in the interim and sound like you're doing the world a service, but the reality is you're not. And it's the same for monetary policy and economics too. They've kind of dug themselves into this hole, and this is why I think they're accelerating their CBDC so they can fully control monetary policy, negative interest rates and all that good stuff, expiring bills and everything to stimulate spending. They're going to really try hard at that. So yes, the adoption of Bitcoin in the US is a direct threat. And it's not even about Bitcoin at this point. Like the US is also looking to push stablecoins in a big way. And it looks like, Tether is going to be a part of that. So what does that mean for Europe? I think they should be far more concerned about stablecoins because the barrier to understand a stablecoin is far lower than Bitcoin. So imagine you can go to any merchant with your self-custodial wallet, pay the merchant in a stablecoin, and that's fully outside of their control. Like they can't really police that. Maybe they'll try. They'll go more draconian, more authoritarian, but it won't work. And the CBDC won't work either. So yeah, I'm just not sure what's happening in Europe now, but it doesn't look good for sure. So the Omega candle is a 100K candle, and a God candle, or also called a Godzilla candle, is a 10K candle. But the Omega candle, it should be green, but it might be red. Like one of the first God candles, I think, was a red God candle, like 10K down. But it just goes to show that the Bitcoin price movements are becoming bigger and bigger, and people are not always aware of these movements. But I still see people like poking at me and saying, "Hey, where's your God candle that you've been talking about?" And my reaction is like, go look at the chart. There have been like 8 or 9 of them so far, but people aren't really aware, and they're not going to be aware of the Omega candle too. Maybe they will, who knows? But like the indication is that if we're seeing God candles regularly, 10K daily movements, it's probably going to bring us to a 100K daily movement relatively soon. And 100K is just, 10x. Bitcoin has done 17x in the past with a totally different macroeconomic landscape than today. Like zero Bitcoin national adoption, no strategic Bitcoin reserves, no talk about issuing Bitcoin bonds, and no talk about buying 1 million Bitcoin from the US. So it's completely within the realm of possibility that you get a 100K candle soon, maybe this year. So I think that the biggest thing is the Omega candle is saying be ready for this when it happens, because things are changing very, very rapidly. So a vellin good is you could call it a luxury good. It's valuable because it's expensive and it's a sign of prestige and wealth. And, you wouldn't pay, you don't want to pay less for an LV bag. You want to pay more and signal the wealth. And this is like applicable to anything like luxury cars and phones to a lesser extent, and fashion. So a vellin effect is just taking that and extrapolating that concept and applying it to Bitcoin, whereby there is like a threshold at which Bitcoin crosses this, and now it is like the new gold. And I think we're already seeing an inkling of that with the executive order to create the SBR. I need exposure to this. I'm willing to dump my gold and buy some of this. And maybe gold is the only valuable thing a lot of people have left after the dollar starts to hyperinflate or devalue even more. Because you have to imagine at that threshold, like, what does the world look like when Bitcoin is $500,000? It's a very different world than today, right? It's not 80, 90, 100, 108. It's a very radically different world. And I think people miss that mindset that things change as Bitcoin goes up in big chunks. Like 200, it's a very different world. From 200, 500, you just have to, double plus a little bit, right? And then from 500 to 1 million, it's just a double. So these things become more likely the higher we go, because it's not like we're 10xing, we're just doubling from 500 at that vellin threshold. So we've been working on this for a number of years post El Salvador, and it's always been a challenging conversation.
As inflation worsens and national debt spirals out of control, the United States is beginning to wake up to Bitcoin's potential. Corporations are adding it to their balance sheets, politicians are voicing support, and even entire nations are starting to pay attention. With a $500,000 Bitcoin now within reach, The legacy monetary system that shaped the last century is showing serious cracks. Exchanges are running dry, circulating supply is vanishing, and millions of coins are lost forever. What remains is being rapidly acquired by institutions and sovereign investors. This isn't just speculation, it's a global shift. Scarcity is doing what monetary policy never could, creating unstoppable demand and forcing a revaluation of what sound money really is. When the final move comes, what many call the Omega candle, Bitcoin won't just be an asset to trade. It will become the foundation of a new financial world. There won't be a second chance once that door closes. The race for what's left has already begun. Now, here's more from Samson Mow on why that moment could arrive sooner than anyone expects.
We're in the final phase of this bull run. Let me guide you. We've launched Daily Dose Crypto Alpha, a free private Telegram group just for the Daily Dose Crypto family. Inside, I'll guide you through profit-taking strategies, real trading tactics, long-term crypto investing mindset. Only 500 spaces available, then it's closed. If you're serious about this bull run, click the private link to join now.
Well, you are seeing the coins on exchange decline, right? And I think it'll just accelerate now with more corporate buys. And if there are nation-state buys, like with Cynthia Lummis's bill, then that's just going to accelerate. And I don't think everyone fully understands the 21 million limit, right? Because we've grown up, when I say we, I mean everybody, we've grown up in a very fiat world where there's always wiggle room, right? With a fiat economy, you can always fix your mistake. Okay, like in Canada, maybe we spent too much on vaccines. Now we, print some more money. And printing doesn't necessarily mean money on a printing press. There are so many ways to print money, right? Issuing debt or monetizing debt. But, you can fix your mistake, right? We messed up. Well, we'll fix it. But with Bitcoin, there is no recourse. Just like you can't roll back the Bitcoin chain if there's a theft, right? You just can't print more. And that reality has not yet hit the general populace that, okay, there is only 21. And that number is dropping rapidly. They don't know. Like, there's just never been anything like this before. Like, maybe gold, but still, like 2% inflation a year. And it can increase if there is demand. So it's like a different beast still compared to Bitcoin. And it takes a lot of going down the rabbit hole to really understand that ultimate scarcity, that it's just like hitting a wall. No one will help you get more Bitcoin because you can't. If you break down the Bitcoin pie, like maybe like 3-4 million coins might be lost, right? Maybe 5 on the higher end of the boundary, but a lot of coins were lost. You can't look at Bitcoin at the lens that you're looking at it today and understand that, people 10, 15 years ago understood it the same way. A lot of people just didn't care, or they just lost it and threw away the hard drive. And there's a lot of that. And that brings us down to, maybe 15, 16 million coins available. And Michael Saylor alone has taken off all the coins to be mined this year, maybe twice, maybe more. And then you factor in any other significant buyer and you get a multiple of that. So it's likely that Bitcoin is already deflationary, right? Everything that is mined is not adding to the supply. So there is really little Bitcoin left. And I think all these dips, all the fear right now, if you think of things adversarially, then someone trying to accumulate a lot of Bitcoin would do well to make you think that, we're going to drop to 70 and, we're going to have a bear market so that you sell your coins to them because there's so little left. And, the price dips seem to convince maybe Bitcoiners with less conviction that, there's lots of Bitcoin too, because, whenever I post something like there's only 21 million, then there's always some guy retorting like, well, then why is the price going down? The price can go down because there's 2 million coins on exchanges that can be used to move the price up and down, and it's trading. So short term does not indicate what happens in the long term. And we know what the long-term result is, that there is not enough Bitcoin for anybody. The US dollar will be the last fiat currency to crumble. And I definitely think fiat won't last more than 5 years. It's just the Bitcoin is such a far superior alternative that once you cross that vellin threshold and you're in the half million range to 1 million a coin, I think you see a large drop in volatility. And with that large drop in volatility comes the opportunity to use Bitcoin as that currency, right? Like the reason why I think you still need stable coins and you still need dollar value in emerging markets is because a lot of these people can't weather that volatility, right? You're in Latin America now. You kind of know like a lot of people are just getting by day to day. They can't risk that 30%. Not they can't even risk a 10% drop, right? So they need something that is stable. And stable coins, although are not stable because they're pegged to fiat, which is dying, they are stable because debt is still denominated in dollars or derivatives of dollars. So it's still like the thing that is needed. But that will change when Bitcoin becomes this new gold, that it is 500,000, 700,000 a coin or a million a coin. And at that point, people stop wanting the fiat. And from then it just snowballs because these changes from one money to another, they're really not gradual. Either it's voluntary in terms of the government saying, here's the new one with 3 zeros lopped off, or it's just complete capitulation and people don't recognize it anymore and they're just using something else as money. So it is a very fast change. And I think like no one's seen something as big as the dollar collapse in their lifetime, right? Like you've seen other fiat currencies collapse, but nothing like a reserve currency in real time as big as the dollar. And that is amplified by all the technology we have then into the internet, right? When other reserve currencies died, you still didn't have all these technologies interconnecting everyone and interconnecting all the thought process and fear that is going to accompany any currency dying. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But I think if the US can link Bitcoin to its T-bills, like through a Bitcoin bond, it can soften that delay. Maybe it'll extend it for another 5 years. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know, but it'll soften the blow because the Bitcoin is kind of cushioning the legacy system as it falls over. And that's also why we're doing what we're doing at Jan 3 to get countries onboarded to Bitcoin, because if you can get these parallel systems in place, Bitcoin pesos, Bitcoin yen, Bitcoin RMB, then at least you have a secondary rail where people have some exposure to it, some understanding of it, that they can make that migration. Otherwise, it's just imagine like we flip the switch tomorrow and suddenly, I don't know, pick a big country, like say India. Suddenly India must use Bitcoin because the rupee is gone. It's like zeroed. That would be mass chaos. And you don't want that. Like, it's really bad for people when these things happen. It's a lot of chaos, a lot of suffering, and potentially death.
Bitcoin is rapidly approaching the $100,000 mark, and the momentum behind it is becoming impossible to ignore. The Federal Reserve is beginning to ease its stance on previous restrictions, while the Trump administration is rolling out new pro-crypto policies, including support for stablecoins. David Sachs, now leading crypto policy under Trump, has declared that the war on crypto is over. For Samson Mow, this moment was always coming. He's long argued that Bitcoin is more than just an asset, it's the foundation for a financial system that doesn't depend on trust in governments or traditional banks. As institutions and regulators shift their stance, Bitcoin's legitimacy and utility continue to grow. With major political and financial powers now aligning with Bitcoin, a move toward $400,000 to $500,000 is no longer speculation, it's a matter of time. The financial system is transforming before our eyes, and it's accelerating fast. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these 2 awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.